The hymn stopped, mid-note. The sound broke, people turned, eyes lifted, Rowan leaned forward. The rail gave way, he fell hard, the board dropped with him. The sound hit the floor, gasps followed, chairs moved. Arthur shouted, "Doctor!" Lady Bantry clutched her chest. Sylvia froze. Dr. Haydock ran fast. He bent to Rowan, checked pulse, checked breath. "Alive," he said. But his face shifted. He looked again. The wound, wrong. Slack entered quick, his eyes sharp, his tone firm. "No one touch him. Stand back." Rowan groaned once. His lips moved. "Not accident." His head dropped. He went still again. Whispers grew. "Accident? Or push? Or plan?" Sylvia muttered. "He leaned, that's all." Arthur said, "The rail was sound this morning." Dr. Haydock frowned. "Edges too clean, not splintered, not broken wood. Something struck, straight." Slack's jaw set. "Sergeant, upstairs." Lake obeyed. He climbed fast, looked close. Lower hinge, bent. Upper hinge, bare. He called down. "Pin gone, not broken, removed." Silence dropped. Lady Bantry gasped. "You mean sabotage?" Slack snapped. "Quiet, let me check." He climbed up. He bent low, ran his hand. Scratches, fresh, shiny, not old. Arthur trembled. "I checked it. It held." Slack did not answer. He stared long, his face tight. "Strange choice," he muttered. Marple stood still. She had not moved, her eyes fixed above. She waited. Slack climbed down. He faced her. Her voice came soft. "The rail was firm this morning. Now it fails." Slack asked, "You suggest tampering?" Marple tilted her head. "Pins do not vanish by chance. Someone replaced it with something weaker." Lake bent again. His hand brushed dust. He pulled a piece. A broken tip. A pearl head. Slack stared. A hat pin. Sylvia gasped. Her hand touched her hat. Her lips opened. No words came. Slack held it high. Brass missing. This instead. Deliberate. Murmurs grew louder. Eyes turned to Sylvia. She stepped back. Her face pale. Her voice cracked. "I never touched it." Slack cut her off. "Later." Dr. Haydock warned. "Rowan must stay still." "The wound is deep." Slack nodded once, his eyes cold. He turned to Marple. She had not looked away. Her gaze stayed on the hinge. She spoke once more, her tone even. Her words final. "This was no fall. It was arranged." And the broken pearl pin lay in Lake's hand, sharp, cold. Proof. A pearl glinted in the dust. Lake held it high. The crowd leaned forward, eyes locked. Slack snatched it, turned it in his hand. "A hat pin," he said. Broken clean, sharp point gone. He looked down, fast. "Sylvia." His tone cut hard. "Yours?" Sylvia froze, her hand still near her hat. Her lips trembled, her voice faint. I don't know." Slack stepped closer. "Not an answer. Is this yours?" She shook her head, her voice louder. "Number I never touched it." Slack's eyes narrowed. "You wore a hat. The pin is gone. Explain." Sylvia's face turned pale. "I did not place it there. I never went near the loft." Arthur muttered, "I saw her downstairs." She didn't climb. Slack barked, "Quiet." His eyes stayed on Sylvia. "You deny this pin?" "Yes," she whispered, her fists clenched. "It is not mine." Slack held the pin up again. "Pearl head, delicate, distinct, matches your set." Sylvia shook her head again. Her words rushed. "I lost one last week. I thought it slipped. I never imagined this." Murmurs spread fast. People nodded. Some doubted. Some whispered blame. Lady Bantry leaned close to Marple. "She looks guilty." Marple did not answer. Her eyes stayed calm. Slack pressed harder. "You lost it? And it appears here, holding a hinge?" Sylvia stammered. "I don't know how, but I swear, I never touched it." Dr. Haydock cleared his throat. Inspector, her voice shakes. This is strain, not guilt. Slack snapped back. Doctor, wounds I study. Voices mean nothing. Sylvia turned to him, her eyes wet now. You must believe me. I never climbed those steps. Arthur spoke again. She could not. The service had begun. She was beside me. Slack frowned deeper, his tone harsh. Then who used it? Who placed it here? Who risked a life with a woman's pin? No one spoke. Silence pressed. Eyes dropped. Feet shuffled. Sylvia cried, Someone stole it. Someone used it. Not me. Slack did not soften. You had chance. You had access. This is yours. She shook her head again. Her voice cracked. I'm not guilty. Slack exhaled sharp, his eyes still cold. He placed the pin on the rail. Facts don't lie. People do. Lady Bantry whispered again. Do you think she... Marple lifted a hand, her gaze steady, her tone quiet, her words clear. Yet someone placed it with care. And silence fell again. The hymns were out of order. Arthur stared at the board. His lips moved. That is not what I wrote. Slack stepped forward. Explain. Arthur held his papers. He shuffled them fast. This was the morning list. Number 3 here, number 4 after. I copied exact. Slack snatched the sheet. He scanned it. His brows pulled down. Yet the board shows different. Arthur shook his head. I don't change things. I only copy. Sylvia whispered, I saw him write. He was careful. Slack turned. Careful? Then how is this altered? Arthur swallowed. I cannot answer, but I swear, it's correct. Lady Bantry leaned in, her voice low. Something's wrong. I watched the board. It shifted. Slack wrote quick notes, his tone firm. Someone tampered. Someone wanted confusion. Dr. Haydock crossed his arms. Why change hymns? Slack answered flat. Distraction. Simple, small change, big effect. Lake bent near the board. His fingers traced chalk. These numbers? Smudge easy. See here, not the same hand. Slack grabbed it. Different strokes. One heavier, one lighter. Arthur stepped back. I don't write like that. Slack pressed him. You touched it last? Arthur nodded. Yes, before service. After that. No. Sylvia added, he stayed with us. He never left. Slack still frowned. Then who walked past? Who had chalk? Who gained from change? Marple's eyes narrowed. She spoke calm. A change this small is never without reason. The crowd whispered again. Faces turned. Questions spread. Why change a hymn? Arthur lifted his paper high. I wrote clear. I copied exact. If it is altered, then someone else did it. Slack jabbed a finger. And that means intent, not accident, not mistake. Lake searched the margin. His hand brushed faint marks. Inspector. Look here. Slack bent closer. Lines faint. Words cramped. Chalk pressed in. Arthur blinked hard. I never wrote that. Sylvia leaned near. Her breath caught. It's an order. Slack read it aloud. 2 words, sharp, clear. Change board here. The air stiffened. The room froze. Arthur stepped back again. Sylvia covered her mouth. Slack held the board tight, his eyes hard, his words flat. Someone planned this. And the chalk mark glared back. Silent. Director, cold. A faint hiss filled the silence. Sylvia froze, her head tilted, her face tightened. She whispered low. That sound? It's me. Slack frowned. What do you mean? Sylvia stepped closer. She pointed at the organ. That voice. That is my song. Everyone turned. The hiss grew faint. Then a voice rose. Sylvia's voice. Clear, sharp, notes from a hymn. Sylvia shook her head fast. I'm not singing now, but that is me. Arthur stammered. I hear it too. It's her voice. Slack raised a hand. Quiet, all of you. The hiss played on. then stopped. Silence again. Sylvia's hands shook. They copied me. That was my rehearsal. I sang it last night. Not today. Slack narrowed his eyes. You say this is a recording? Yes, Sylvia said. I know every ornament. Those runs are mine. That is not live. Dr. Haydock nodded. She's right. Her throat never opened, yet we all heard her. Slack turned. Lake, check the organ. Lake moved fast. He bent low. He pressed against the side. Nothing. He tapped wood. Hollow sound. He pressed again. Still hollow. Sylvia whispered again. It came from behind, from the shutters, the swell box. Slack barked. Search it. Lake climbed the small steps. He leaned in close. He pushed the shutter wider. His hand slipped in. Only dust. He pressed deeper. His sleeve brushed. Wires. He froze. Slack called up. Well, Lake answered. Something here. Not part of the organ. Feels wrong. Sylvia covered her mouth, her eyes wide. They hid it there. Arthur muttered. Why hide it? Why use her voice? Slack said, flat. To build an alibi, to prove she sang. While she did not. Sylvia shook her head again. They made me sound guilty, but I was not even near. Lady Bantry whispered to Marple. This is wicked. Marple did not reply. Her eyes stayed fixed. Lake grunted. His fingers hooked metal. Something heavy, something square. Slack ordered, Pull it out. Careful. Lake strained. The wood scraped. The hiss returned, faint. Then a click. The crowd leaned closer. Sylvia held her breath. Arthur's hands clenched tight. Slack's eyes did not move. He stared at Lake. Bring it down. Lake's arm shook. His hand pulled harder. A corner slipped free. A cable trailed loose. Sylvia whispered again. My voice. On that thing. Lake groaned once. His fingers locked tight. He dragged harder. The shutter creaked. The object shifted. Another click. Slack barked. Now, Sergeant, show us. Lake's face tensed. His hand clutched firm. He pulled again. The shape slid out. He froze. His fingertips brushed the casing. Cold, smooth, mechanical. A machine. It clicked when the button lifted. Lake froze. The hiss stopped. The sound died. Slack moved closer. Bring it out. Lake pulled harder. The object slid. Dust fell. A small machine appeared. A cassette recorder. He lowered it. Slack took it. He turned it once, cold metal. Black casing. Buttons scratched. He pressed play. The tape whirred. A voice came out. Sylvia's voice. Clear, strong, singing the hymn. Sylvia shook her head fast. Her hands trembled. That is me. But not today. That was rehearsal. Arthur muttered, Impossible. Slack snapped. Quiet. The tape ran on. Exact notes, exact ornaments, every sound hers. Slack pressed stop. He looked at her. So you had an alibi ready? Sylvia gasped. Number I did not place it. I swear Lady Bantry whispered. She sounds trapped. Marple said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the recorder. Dr. Haydock leaned in. Technology. Anyone could press play. Doesn't mean she lied. Slack frowned. Then who planted it? Who made sure it played? No one spoke. Silence spread. Sylvia's voice cracked. They wanted me guilty, but I never touched it. Arthur nodded. She sat beside me. She never moved. Slack still stared at the device. His tone cut sharp. This is no accident. This was planned. Someone built her alibi, and someone framed her. He turned the recorder again. He checked the back. Fingers traced tape slot. Inside. The cassette glimmered. Lake said, low. Who owns it? A new voice spoke. Hugh stepped forward. That is mine. Eyes turned. Hugh stood firm. His hands folded. Yes, that recorder belongs to me. Slack narrowed his eyes. Yours? You admit that? Yes, Hugh said. I used it for work. I record sounds. I fix pipes. I test tone. Slack raised the machine high. Then explain. Why is it hidden here? Why playing Sylvia's voice? Hugh's jaw tightened. I don't know. It was stolen. It went missing. Days ago. Slack stepped closer. Missing? And you told no one? Hugh shook his head. I thought it misplaced. Among my tools. I never suspected this. The crowd whispered again. Some believed him. Some doubted. Sylvia whispered, He speaks true. He would not harm me. Arthur muttered, But it is his. Slack cut them both. Enough. He held the recorder tight, his eyes fixed on Hugh, his tone sharp as steel. You claim this is yours. Then prove it. Hugh stiffened. Prove. Slack leaned closer, his voice cold. Yes. Prove when you lost it. And silence followed his words. Smoke curled from the vestry stove. The door creaked. Slack pushed inside. His boots struck hard. Lake followed quick. Heat rushed out. Flames licked at paper. Edges curled black. Slack snapped. Pull it. Lake grabbed tongs. He dragged charred sheets. Ash scattered. Slack bent low. He pressed the pieces flat. Half letters, half words, still clear enough. Arthur peered in. It's a hymn sheet. Sylvia leaned close. The notes match Rowan's. Slack lifted another piece. Thicker paper, red edge seal. He turned it. A contract corner. Publisher's mark, clear. Vale stood frozen. His face pale. His hands tight. Slack rose straight. His voice sharp. Mr. Vale stammered. Yes. Inspector? Slack shoved the fragment at him. Your contract? Vale's lips moved slow. It looks familiar. Slack barked. Not looks, is it? Vale wiped sweat. Yes, it is mine. Sylvia gasped. Why burn it? Arthur muttered. Guilt hides fast. Vale snapped back. Number not me. I didn't light it. Slack's eyes narrowed. Yet you stand here, at the stove, at night, with burning papers. Vale shifted feet. I came late. I smelled smoke. I opened the door. That's all. Slack's tone cut harder. You expect belief? Fragments match your work. Rowan's hymn, your seal. Dr. Haydock stepped in. Inspector, steady. We need proof. Slack raised his brows. Proof? Half-burned hymn. Publisher's corner. Enough for me. Lake dropped more ash. Letters clear now. Rowan's name marked. Signatures half gone. Marple spoke. Calm. Rowan's words burned, but not erased. Sylvia whispered. Why destroy them? Arthur said. Because they reveal theft. Vale burst out. No, Rowan gave them. He asked me to sign. I only guarded them. Slack stepped closer. His finger jabbed Vale's chest. You lied. You hid papers. Now you burned them. Vale shook his head fast. I was afraid. Afraid of scandal. Afraid of ruin. Slack's voice cut flat. Afraid of truth. The room fell still. Everyone stared. Ash spread across the floor. Lake lifted the last piece. Scorched but clear. Bold print letters. Advance payment. Sylvia gasped again. He owed money. Arthur nodded, and could not repay. Vale muttered, It is not what you think. Slack snapped back. It is exactly what I think. Dr. Haydock frowned. So Rowan threatened to expose him. Marple's eyes did not move, her voice steady. Exposure costs more than money. It costs pride. Slack dropped the paper pieces. They fluttered dead on the floor. His jaw locked tight. He looked at Vale again, his tone final. Someone feared these would speak louder than words. Signatures carry weight, heavier than stone. Slack dropped the fragments on the table, his eyes fixed on Vale. Explain this. Vale shifted. He forced a smile. Contracts are business, nothing more. Slack barked. Rowan signed. You advanced him money. The deadline came due. Vale nodded slowly. Yes, an advance was paid, but repayment would come later. Arthur cut in. Or not at all. Vale snapped. Be quiet. Slack tapped the burned paper. Advance payment. His name. Your seal. This is fact. Vale rubbed his temple. He struggled. Yes. Deadlines pressed him. Yes. But that does not prove murder. Sylvia spoke softly. He said someone chased him. He feared exposure. Vale turned quick. Not from me. I wanted him safe. Marple's eyes rested on Vale, her tone calm. You wanted him signed, but he hesitated. Why? Vale cleared his throat. Rowan doubted himself. He doubted success. I tried to help. Marple leaned forward slightly. You pushed him, pressed him, demanded repayment? Vale shook his head fast. Number I offered options. I gave him time. Slack cut in sharp. But the date passed. The debt grew. Your reputation risked collapse. Vale's lips pressed tight. My firm is stable. Arthur sneered. Stable? You hide contracts in flames. Vale's face flushed. Those papers misled. Drafts only, not final. Slack smacked the table. Lie half-burned, still binding, still clear. Sylvia whispered again. He begged me not to tell. He feared Vale's anger. Vale slammed his hand down. Lies. I never harmed him. Slack's jaw set firm. You had cause. You had chance. You had reason. Marple spoke low. Cause is clear, but truth lies deeper. Vale glanced at her, his eyes narrow. What truth? Marple's tone did not change. The truth of pressure, the truth of silence, the truth of money owed. Vale's hands clenched. I built his future. He betrayed me. He threatened. Exposure, that is all. Arthur spat. Exposure? Because he copied work. Because you sold fraud. Vale's head snapped. You know nothing. Slack leaned closer. I know enough. You feared ruin. You feared shame. And Rowan stood in your way. Vale's breath quickened. You twist facts. Sylvia pleaded. Then tell us truth. Why destroy the pages? Vale answered quick. They meant nothing. Old drafts. Useless. Slack jabbed a finger. They meant proof. Marple folded her hands. She spoke steady. You cannot erase ink by fire. Even ash remembers. Vale laughed once, bitter. Philosophy from a spinster? Slack cut in. Enough. Your fraud stinks. Your lies pile up. Vale spread his arms. You cannot tie me. You have no murder weapon. You have no act. Silence followed. Eyes turned. Everyone waited. Then Dr. Haydock stepped forward, his voice hard, his words final. The wound cannot be from a fall. Tools can betray the hand that holds them. Slack held a small packet. He shook it once. Metal dust spilled. He spoke sharp. Filings found near the hinge. Hugh stiffened, his jaw set. What of it? Slack stepped closer. They match your kit, your work, your tools. Hugh shook his head. Number they are common. Any file makes the same. Slack snapped back. Do not play clever. These are brass filings, and your kit works brass. Arthur muttered. I saw him near the loft, 2 days back. Hugh turned quick. For repairs, I check the pipes. That is my job. Sylvia added softly. He fixed a key. I saw him. Slack raised the packet higher. And he left this behind. Evidence. Hugh stepped forward, his fists clenched. Not sabotage, restoration. I worked on tone. I filed edges. That dust is mine, but not for murder. Slack's eyes narrowed. You admit it? Yes, Hugh snapped. I admit dust, not crime. Lake said low. He had chance. He had tools. Slack pointed. And motive. He disliked Rowan, called him careless. Hugh barked. I called him careless with music, not life. Dr. Haydock spoke calm. Inspector, dust alone proves little. Slack shot back. It proves presence. It proves work on brass. It proves intent. Hugh shouted. Intent. You twist my craft. You shame my skill. Lady Bantry whispered to Marple. Could it be him? Marple did not answer. Her eyes stayed on the floor. Slack pressed harder. You had the means. You had the moment. You left the trace. Hugh's voice dropped low. We love this church. I mend what is broken. I do not break. Arthur muttered again. Yet the filings sit there. Hugh pointed back. They sat there long, not just today. Old work. Old dust. Slack's lips thinned. You claim age. Yes, Hugh said. Age weeks, not hours. Slack shook his head. Excuses. Only excuses. The room tensed, all eyes on Hugh. His hands shook now. Sylvia whispered again. He tells truth. He repairs, not harms. Slack ignored her. He turned to Lake. Seal his kit. Check his bench. Lake nodded once. He gathered tools, placed them aside. Hugh glared hard. You waste time. You hunt the wrong man. Slack's reply came cold. Time unmasks liars, always. Marple bent slowly. Her eyes searched the boards. Her hand brushed the dust. She lifted her fingers. Tiny grains stuck. She looked close. Bright brass, edges sharp. Her voice was soft. But the words cut. These are fresh. Too fresh. Not old at all. And silence fell heavy. The same flourish. Again and again. Sylvia froze. Her lips parted. Her hands shook. She whispered low. That's mine. Slack turned. What? She pointed at the recorder. The run, the note bend. That's my style. Arthur frowned. All singers bend notes. Sylvia shook her head fast. Not like this. This is mine. Exact. The same pause, the same lift. I know it. Slack pressed play again. The hymn poured out. Every rise, every fall, every tiny turn. Sylvia covered her mouth. Tears brimmed. That was rehearsal. Not tonight. They copied me. Slack's eyes narrowed. You're certain? Yes, she said. I sang that in practice. Rowan heard me. Vale stood near. I never thought... Her words broke. She gasped for breath. They used me. Dr. Haydock leaned closer. She is sure. Her memory holds detail, no doubt. Arthur muttered. Then the tape proves setup. Someone planted it. Slack crossed his arms. It also proves her voice. People will believe sound, not her denial. Sylvia cried louder. They will say I lied. They will say I tricked. Lady Bantry touched her arm. Steady, child. Truth will out. Sylvia shook her head. They don't see truth. They hear the tape. Slack leaned closer to her. You claim it was rehearsal. Then who recorded? Sylvia's voice dropped. I don't know. I didn't give permission, but only one stood near, only one. Arthur asked, Rowan? Sylvia whispered, he never touched machines. He barely kept order. Slack pressed, then who? Sylvia's breathing quickened. Her words stumbled. Vale, he was there. He asked me to repeat. He said he liked the turn. He smiled. I thought nothing. Marple's eyes sharpened. She spoke soft. You trusted him. He captured you, not with praise, but with tape. Sylvia's shoulders dropped. They made me proof. They made me shield. I am victim twice. Slack's voice cut hard. You admit he stood near. You admit he heard. And now this plays. Sylvia nodded, her eyes wet. Yes, he took it. I swear Arthur asked, but why frame you? Sylvia answered quick. To hide him, to blind you, to point away. Slack folded, arms. You speak against him now, but do you have proof? Sylvia shook her head. Only this sound, and my memory. Marple spoke calm. Memory is strong, sound is stronger. Together they weigh. Sylvia gasped once more, her face drained, her voice cracked, her words cut the air. Only one man had that tape. Money silences conscience. Slack stood firm, his eyes locked on Vale. You feared loss. Vale stiffened, his lips pressed thin. False. My work stands. Arthur scoffed. Your work? Or Rowan's? Vale snapped. Rowan copied. I published. That is law. Sylvia shook her head. He told me. He planned to expose. He said you stole notes. Vale barked. Lies. He had no proof. Slack lifted burned paper. Proof sits here, half gone. Yet enough. Vale waved it off. Drafts. Meaningless. Not binding. Slack leaned closer. Rowan threatened you. He warned others. You panicked. Vale's voice rose. Number I held calm. I feared nothing. Dr. Haydock spoke quiet. You feared collapse. Business gone. Reputation ruined. Vale turned quick. I built my name. I did not steal. Arthur muttered, You built on fraud. Rowan knew. Vale shouted, Rowan lied. He invented tales. He wanted pity. Slack slammed the table. Stop, he spoke truth. You silenced him. Sylvia's voice shook. He begged me. He said Vale copied lines, old hymn lines, not his own. Marple raised her head, her tone calm. Plagiarism leaves shadow. The old survives. The new reveals it. Vale sneered. You have nothing. No book. No proof. Slack's eyes narrowed. You deny, but your motive screams. Vale jabbed a finger. Rowan was weak. He failed. I only guided. Arthur leaned in. You guided with theft and feared discovery. Vale shook his head. I never harmed him. I never touched him. Sylvia pressed again. You recorded me. You planted my voice. You framed me. Vale glared. Nonsense. I have no machine. No tape. Slack smirked. Recorder was Hughes. But tape? Your hand. Your plan. Vale shouted, Assumption, not proof. Lake stepped forward. We found your initials on the ledger, beside Rowan's name. Vale stammered. Routine. Publisher's mark. Nothing more. Marple spoke soft. Routine can kill. Routine can bind. Vale wiped sweat. His voice cracked. You twist words. None of this stands. Slack turned sharp. You fear the hymn, the true hymn, the one you stole. Vale barked again. No such thing. Slack moved fast. He grabbed a hymn book. He slammed it down. The sound cut air. He opened it wide. Pages worn, ink faded, but lines clear. He turned it for all, letters bold, music true. He said loud, Here it is. The Victorian hymn, the original. And silence hit. Steps echoed in the empty nave. Slack held his hand up. Lake stopped behind him. The vestry door stood shut. Slack whispered, We wait here. No sound, no move. The hall was dark. The clock ticked slow. Papers lay on the table, fragments beside them. Arthur shifted uneasy. Why stay? Slack replied cold. Because thieves return, always. Sylvia sat back, her arms tight, her face pale. I should not be here, Marple said quiet. You should. You must see. Dr. Haydock nodded once. Truth heals. Face it. Slack hushed them. Enough talk. They waited still. A creak broke silence. The outer door moved. A hinge groaned. Slack's eyes narrowed. Ready? Lake gripped his baton. Arthur held breath. Sylvia closed her eyes. Footsteps dragged closer, measured, slow, deliberate. The latch lifted. The vestry door eased. A shadow slipped inside. Slack leaned low. He motioned, wait. No one moved. The figure bent. Rustle of paper followed. Hands shuffled pages. Edges scraped table. Lake whispered low. He's searching. Slack raised a finger. Quiet. The fire stove clicked. The door creaked open. Metal rang faint. Arthur whispered, He means to burn. Slack glared him down. Silence. The figure struck a match. The flare cracked. Paper crinkled. Flame touched edge. Slack shouted, Now! He stormed forward. Lake rushed behind. Arthur stumbled after. The figure turned fast, eyes wide, face clear, veil. He dropped the match. It hissed out. But one paper smoked. The edge curled. Slack grabbed his arm. Caught! Veil twisted. I know it's mistake. Slack pulled harder. You burn evidence. Veil stammered. Number I saved it. I kept it safe. Sylvia cried. You lied again. Marple stepped close, her tone steady. You came back, to erase what Ash failed. Veil shook his head. I feared scandal, only that. Slack shoved him down. Scandal? This is crime. Arthur pointed. The contract, still smoking. Lake stamped it out. He lifted the page. Half burned, half clear. Slack read the top. Contract of rights, Rowan to Vale. Sylvia gasped. The last one. Dr. Haydock said, flat. He tried again, to kill truth. Slack held the page high, his eyes hard, his words sharp. Someone feared these would vanish, but they remain. Vale pulled back, weakly. You cannot prove intent. I panicked, that is all. Slack leaned close, his grip tight, his tone final. You panicked, yes, because this page still breathes, and it breathes against you. Vale's face drained. The room froze. The last contract smoked. The ink glared dark, and Vale stood caught, hand still black with ash. Truth leaks like water. Slack stood over Vale. The contract still smoked. Slack said, flat. Explain the hinge. Vale shook his head. I know nothing. I never touched it. Slack's voice rose. Rail failed. Pin gone. Hatpin placed. You were near. Vale snapped. Not I. I kept a distance. I stayed out. Arthur barked. Lies. You walked past the loft. I saw you. Vale glared back. For business only. I spoke to Rowan, that is all. Slack leaned closer. Then the tape? You planted Sylvia's voice, her sound, her alibi. Vale shook his head fast. No machine of mine. No tape of mine. Sylvia's voice cut sharp. You stood near. You told me sing twice. You praised my runs. You stole my sound. Vale snapped again. Coincidence, nothing more. I recorded nothing. Slack slammed the table. You deny all, yet we catch you, burning contracts, destroying proof. Vale staggered back. I panicked. That was error, not guilt. Dr. Haydock folded arms. Error repeats. First papers. Now more. Patterns speak. Marple stepped forward, her tone calm, her words steady. Patterns do speak, and this one shouts. Vale stared at her. What pattern? Marple raised a hand. The axe link. First you pressure Rowan, advance unpaid, threat rising. Second you record Sylvia, a voice to mislead. Third, you alter the board, a shift to confuse. Fourth, you burn contracts, fire to erase. She paused once. Each step ties back. Each step speaks motive, greed, and fear. Vale's face twisted. You guess? You invent. Slack said cold. She states truth. Every act yours. No one else gains. Arthur added firm. You alone stood to profit. You alone feared loss. Vale's voice dropped. You all hate me. That is clear. Sylvia answered fast. Number, we see truth. We see your hand. Vale turned away. He muttered low. I deny it. I deny hinge. I deny tape. I deny fire. Slack struck the table again. Denial breaks. When facts rise, you cannot bury all. Vale raised his chin. You cannot prove hinge. Metal leaves memory. Slack stood ready. Vale sat stiff. The expert entered, a small bag in hand. He bowed once, then opened it. Slack asked flat. Well? The expert nodded. Brass filings, fresh, found on his coat. He pointed at Vale. Edges match the hinge, same grain, same cut. Vale jumped. Number impossible, not mine. Slack snapped. Yet they sit here, on your sleeve, on your pocket. Vale shook his head. I brushed the loft, that is all. Dust clung, not proof. Arthur cut in. Dust, yes, but fresh dust, not weeks old. Sylvia added low. Same shine, same cut, like from new work. Vale glared. You twist this. Slack turned. Hatpin next. Lake stepped forward. He held a box. Inside. Pins gleamed, all pearl-headed. Sylvia gasped. My set, it's complete, except one broken. Lake lifted the broken piece. He placed it beside. Perfect match. Pearl same. Metal same. Slack said, cold. Her pin replaced the hinge. Your hand swapped it. Vale cried. No! Anyone could take it. Anyone could use it. Marple spoke calm. But who had cause? Who stood to gain? Not Hugh, not Arthur, not Sylvia. Arthur muttered. She lost Pin. But she gained nothing. Slack nodded. Only you gained. Rowan silenced, debt hidden. Vale slammed the table. False, I am framed. Slack ignored him. He motioned Lake again. Bring the papers. Lake opened a folder. He set charred pages, flat. Rowan's handwriting still clear, notes traced, bars marked. Arthur leaned close. That matches his copy. Before fire. Sylvia whispered. I saw him write those lines. He showed me. He said they were old. Slack placed the burned sheet beside. Same lines, same hymn, not his, stolen from before. Marple's voice steady. Rowan exposed you. He copied your fraud. He planned to show proof. Vale muttered. He had no right. Slack's tone sharpened. And you silenced him, with hinge, with pin, with tape. Vale shouted, you cannot tie me. Not fully. The expert raised a hand. One more thing. The cut-and hinge, sharp, flat, tool precise, matches his file set, not Hugh's. Hugh growled. I told you, not me. Slack looked at Vale, his eyes hard, his voice final. Brass on coat, pin from her set, paper-proof, tool marks yours. Vale's breath raced, his shoulder sagged. He stared down. No words came. The room stayed silent. No one moved. Only Slack spoke. Only one choice remains. Silence weighs more than shouting. Vale sat slumped. His eyes dropped, his lips tight. Slack stood tall. You cannot escape now. Vale muttered. I admit fraud. I copied. I sold. Yes, I twisted notes. I claimed them mine. Arthur snapped. Thief. Vale raised his hand. Not murderer. I cheated, yes, but I did not kill. Slack's eyes narrowed. You swapped the hinge. You used the pin. You burned the papers. Vale shook his head. Number I feared scandal. I hid my shame. But I never struck him. Sylvia cried. You framed me. You planted my voice. You made me guilty. Vale whispered. I needed cover, but not death. Slack pressed harder. Every act leads to you. Each step planned. Each trace points back. Vale's voice cracked. I planned only to protect, not to kill, Dr. Haydock said, flat. Yet Rowan bleeds, and rail broke, not by chance. Marple moved closer, her voice calm. Consider the order. First the hymns changed. Arthur's list was altered. Why? Vale looked down. No answer. Marple pressed on. To move the board, to shift attention, so the rail could fail unseen. Slack added sharp. Timing exact. Fall at peak. Crowd distracted. Marple nodded. Then Sylvia's voice, recorded, place to play. An alibi forged, while true hands worked. Sylvia gasped. You used me twice. Vale stayed silent. Marple's tone firm. Next, the burning. Contracts gone, but not enough. Proof survived. Arthur snapped again. You tried twice. First hinge, then fire. Slack leaned closer. Your fraud was heavy, your fear heavier, so you struck. Vale shook his head, his face pale, his hands trembled. No murder. Only mistake. I never meant it. Slack slammed the table. Excuses break here. The hinge proves cut. The filings prove touch. The pin proves plan. Vale whispered again. I cannot. Marple stepped forward, her eyes steady, her words even. You feared Rowan. He stood ready. He would speak. You silenced him, not with words, but with fall. Sylvia cried. He trusted you. You ruined him. Arthur spat. Coward. Slack snapped. Confess. End this game. Vale shook hard. His chest rose. His breath rushed. He tried to hold. He failed. His voice burst out. Loud. Sharp. Final. He forced my hand. Justice walked slow, but steady. Slack stepped forward. His cuffs ready. His voice flat. Vale, stand. Vale looked down. His face gray. His body weak. He did not move. Slack pulled his arm. The cuffs snapped shut. Steel locked, cold, final. The choir gasped, eyes wide, hands covered mouths. Arthur muttered. At last. Sylvia held her chest, her breath quick, her voice shaking. It's done. Vale spat low. You fools, all of you. I built you music. You repay with chains. Slack yanked him back. You built lies, and lies break. Rowan stirred nearby, his body weak, his head bandaged. He tried to sit. Dr. Haydock stopped him. Lie still. You are not healed. Rowan whispered. My name. Cleared? Sylvia stepped close. Yes, it's clear now. All see truth. Rowan's eyes wet. I feared the worst. I feared they believed. Arthur nodded. Not now. Not anymore. Vale twisted against cuffs. Release me. This is false. All false. Slack shoved him down. No use. Confession stands. Proof stands. You fall. Lady Bantry leaned near Marple. Poor Rowan. What torment. Marple answered calm. He will mend. Truth lifts heavier than pain. Sylvia turned to Rowan, her voice soft. You are free. He cannot hurt you again. Rowan sighed. I live. But scar remains. Dr. Haydock nodded. He recovers, but slow. Trust takes longer. Slack dragged Vale forward. The cuffs rattled. Steps echoed. Each sound final. Arthur said loud. Let him rot. Vale shouted back. You know nothing. Rowan tricked me. I only answered. Slack ignored him, his grip firm, his jaw set. Sylvia trembled again. Her hands shook. She whispered to Marple. I feel guilt. He used me. Still, I feel shame. Marple placed a hand on hers. You are victim, not cause. Remember that. Sylvia nodded, her eyes lowered. Rowan whispered faint. I thank you. All. I could not fight alone. Dr. Haydock said. Rest now. Justice is here. The choir stood silent. Eyes followed Vale. No song now. Only shock. Slack pulled him to the door. Lake opened it wide. Air swept in. The sound sharp. Vale stumbled once. His voice cracked. You celebrate too soon. Fraud, not murder. Slack stopped. He turned him hard. His eyes cold. You killed with craft. Murder by design. Law will name it so. Vale sagged. He said no more. His shoulders bent. His head low. Sylvia whispered again. Justice. Rowan closed his eyes. Relief washed over. Breath eased. Peace faint. Arthur looked to Marple. Was it clear to you? From start? Marple's eyes stayed sharp. Her voice quiet. Her words final. Murder hides in detail, not in drama. After murder, silence lingers. Weeks passed. The church reopened. The choir gathered again. Voices rose careful, each note measured, each step cautious. The weight of past hung. Arthur placed the hymn board. He checked twice. No smudge, no shift. Sylvia stood near. Her hands shook. Then she lifted her chin. She sang. One clear note. The sound held. The choir followed. Slow, but steady. Dr. Haydock watched Rowan. He sat weak. Bandage gone. Scar remained. Rowan whispered. I thought I lost all, but I still have song. Sylvia nodded. You will sing again. We both will. Arthur added. Care will guide now. No more deceit. Lady Bantry sighed. Even worship holds danger. Slack stood near the door, his arms crossed, his words flat. Justice served. Let it end. Vale was gone. Trial ahead. Chains held him now. Marple sat quiet, her eyes calm, her hands folded. Sylvia stepped close. Do you think people forget? Marple replied, steady. They forget noise. They recall detail, and detail shows truth. Rowan leaned back. I owe you, all of you. Dr. Haydock corrected him. You owe breath. Life continues. Make it worthy. Arthur looked round. Choir feels hollow. Marple said soft. Hollow heals, but not fast. Sylvia lowered her head. I feel shame, though I did no wrong. Marple touched her arm. Shame is shadow. You walk past. It fades. Rowan closed his eyes. Greed almost killed me. Not envy, not anger. Greed. Marple nodded once. Greed poisons faster than envy, always. Arthur changed hymn sheets. No tampering now, no trick. Sylvia sang again, stronger this time, her eyes clear, her voice sure. Rowan smiled faint. You rise, better than me. She answered. We both rise, together. Dr. Haydock checked his watch. Time heals body, but trust heals slow. Slack finally spoke. Case closed, file done. Lady Bantry whispered, yet stories remain. Marple's gaze lifted, her voice quiet, her tone final. In sin the weapon is seldom the rail, it is always the heart.